the shame cycle, this is not equivalent to accountability. So the way you talk to yourself plays such a pivotal role in the confidence you have, whether or not you are managing those emotions as they come when you start to have doubt. If you are someone that really just doesn't believe that you can actually be adherent, if you believe that there's something fundamentally wrong with you, inevitably this is going to show up in your adherence, in your ability to see out the diet. So I almost break this up in two ways. There's shame, there's accountability. Now, shame, guilt, it really very much is tied to this belief that you are broken, that you're defective, that you can't lose a certain amount of weight, that you're always going to be stuck, that genetically it's not in the cards for you to get any leaner. And I've heard clients say this, like, it's just not possible for me. I've tried everything and I plateaued, which always happens. Accountability. This is where you approach this a plateau, or, even I guess you could say at the beginning of a diet, you approach this and you're like, okay, something I've done up until this point could be off. It probably is off, but there's also likely a solution. It's definitely fixable. And this is where having a coach like myself comes in, because the language really needs to be, okay, what is off? What are you missing? What is the bottleneck that is having the greatest impact? What leverage are you giving up that you're not aware of? How you talk to yourself, it is like constantly increasing allostatic load at all hours, all moments of the day. And I can tell you the hardest thing the hardest thing I've done, the best thing that I've done for myself, maybe, I don't know if I would say the hardest thing. The best thing that I've done for myself is really deciding, like, okay, from here on forth, I'm going to figure out how to not rely on self-punishment to do the things that I want to do. I'm not going to white knuckle it or white knuckle my goals, um, to allow them to come to fruition. I'm going to have more self-belief. I'm going to stop ignoring some of these biofeedback markers, some of these, feelings that are coming up when I'm in the middle of the diet. I'm actually going to pause and pay attention to them. And instead of really feeling this is like a me problem, this is just something that, is wrong with me, I'm going to approach it like, yeah, like it can be a problem, but for sure there has to be a solution to this. It's not unsolvable. I'm going to tell you a story. So I prepped myself several times, but the last prep that I did, I went into it and I was fueled by this idea. I'm like, okay, like getting as lean as I need to is going to be really hard, but I'm going to do everything I can to really make sure I'm letting the data determine what the next step is. And I'm not going to take the approach that previously I had taken with a coach where like it was just like go harder, demand more out of the body, push yourself until you break. And very much I did break in that prep. Like I really injured my serratus. I put myself in a position where like I couldn't, like my my respirations were affected. Like I couldn't even like contract my abdomen and keep it in because my serratus was very much injured. And like there were signs leading into that injury. There were the clear telltale signs that I ignored, and I just said like, okay, well, this is what I need to do to cross the finish line. And I'm telling you, we're going to cross the finish line no matter what, at all cost. And at the time, I didn't have the maturity to have that foresight that like, I'm so stubborn. I would injure myself to a point it would actually impact my competitiveness on stage, my ability to compete. But as long as I crossed the finish line, that was fine. And it was after that injury, it was after that prep, I was able to reflect and be like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. Sure, I kind of followed the coach's lead pretty blindly. I put a lot of faith there, but I also knew at the time I'm like, this is just very extreme, just so rigid. And during the time, I believed. I'm like, okay, this is what it takes because I suck at fat loss. This is what it takes because I have thick skin and like the epidermis, like for it to get as lean and thin as it needs to be, like I'm just gonna have to like really dig. The contest prep I did after this, I took a much different approach. I I coached myself. I had a mentor, I had a second eye at the time, sure, but like out the gate, like I was setting my own macros. I was making decisions around like how much fat I needed to lose per week. In the first week, I set my calories to like 1620 on average. And I went into prep and I didn't see the loss the first week that I wanted to see. And I remember being like, well, that's disappointing. Um, because really all we can do at this point is lower food, increase cardio, and it's week one. And I have this like timeline, and I said I'm gonna let the data drive decisions so that I don't fall behind, so that I don't have to take extremes at the end. I'm gonna lose the fat when it's easiest, which is at the beginning. And what I found is like the next week I moved my calories down a little bit. I increased cardio a little bit. And I also tightened up food reporting. I was like, okay, like I don't want to waste any more time. I'm going to make sure everything's tracked. Veggies, I'm going to weigh things raw. Um, sure enough, this created a bigger deficit and it put me on track to lose, I think it was like one-ish, 1.2 pounds per week. And it was juicy. Like it was great. Then the next week, like, and the thing is like, I just kept losing at that. There was never a point where I had to like continue to decrease food, increase the deficit. And even then, like towards the end of prep, there was a point where I pulled it a little bit lower. It wasn't actually needed now looking back, but being able to take a completely different approach this prep and go into it with just like, hey, like I'm not going to waste time beating myself up over not losing the weight or, oh, this is hormonal-ish. Cause I mean, like, I remember like old me, like I would have gone through the whole like self-deprecating spiral of like, yeah, like it must be I didn't reverse diet or, hormone or like I didn't reverse diet correctly or my food wasn't high enough in the off season or hormonally something's wrong. And I kept it. I was like, "Yeah, we're going to trust the data because a deficit does work. And there's obviously room for improvement in tightening the reins here. So I'm going to do that." And sure enough, it worked. And it also gave me then that proof to be like, cool, this doesn't have to be emotional. This doesn't have to be about like, I didn't do a good enough job. This can just be very pure, very sterile. Just, yeah, like now you're in a big enough deficit. We'll keep running this unless, unless we need to change something. But I remember that first week, like I actively had to like tell myself, I'm like, look at all the possibilities. Like I am losing weight and I'm losing enough to show I'm in a deficit. So it is like possible. Like it's not that something's wrong with me. Otherwise I wouldn't be losing weight, period. Um, and I ran through like the checklist. I'm like, am I not tracking as tightly? Are there variables? Are there artificial fluctuations? And also I was like on my period that week. It was my artificially inflated week. Did I wake up earlier? But I had like a whole list. I'm like, okay, if I can get clear on these things, then I can I can make a better decision based on the data at hand, not based on how I'm feeling or the amount of food I might want to eat or think I should be eating this early into prep. When you have shame around your performance, it keeps you focused on your limitations. It keeps you focused on who you think you are in a very like skewed fragment of time that doesn't fully encompass the context of everything that you've done in life. It keeps you glued to the negatives. It keeps you in very much a cycle of thinking, well, if I continue to operate at this level, if I continue to meet failure, well, then I'm never going to reach this goal. This goal is impossible because I don't work hard enough or because I can't do it. or because genetically it's out of the cards. Accountability, it helps you see what you can't do. When you say it's me and it's something wrong with me, it feels very permanent and it's kind of a scapegoat. Learn that in therapy. Yeah, it's just a sneaky way to self-sabotage. And when you look at really the program or you look at the thing that you're doing, it's not that something's wrong with you. It means that something in the program needs to be adjusted. And I think if you can kind of check your inner voice, if you can really listen to like, okay, at times that I'm frustrated, how am I talking to myself? And I think it would alarm some of y'all. Like I think God, dude, like I thinking about how I've talked to myself majority of the time that I've spent dieting or just in life in general, like not proud of it. And I'm not better for it. It feels good to know that like you can count on yourself and that even if you've come short, even if things don't go as planned, that like you got your back. Because if you don't have your back, who the fuck does? No one. No one is going to care more about your goals and your happiness than you. And if you don't care about it, I mean, you're setting yourself up for a very grim life. If you are not actively trying to take care of yourself, if you are not actively pursuing these goals with the understanding that, like, okay, I'm doing this to make me feel accomplished, to help me be better, but it's still to take care of myself. It's still to do something that's going to make me be able to do other hard things, hopefully. You got to switch out of this like prosecutor mindset or tonality where you're just coming down harder each and every time, just like not knowing like what the fuck's wrong with you. Like that is not gonna get you there. You suck, you're awful, you should be punished. Like whether it's like direct and that you just think these things, or it's in your behaviors, in the way that you ignore whatever it is that you really need. Switch to coach mode. Switch to scientist mode, switch to parent mode, whatever you need to call it. Hey, what happened? What caused it? What's going to prevent it? Write it down, get out of your head, and you can see things a little more objectively. If how you talk to yourself, if that's something like you're embarrassed to share with a loved one, a friend, if you were to like recount some of these things and it were to be concerning, like it's a pretty big clue. Like you're always listening to that dialogue. So if that's the only way that to create motivation, like I'm telling you, you got another stone that you can turn and like you can go really far with this other approach. All right. So a lot of what we discussed so far is relative to not beating the shit out of yourself.